Our next presenter this morning is Paige Williams, and Paige Williams runs the Audience Awards. The Audience Awards is a platform for video and film, but I'm going to let her fill in all the details. I do want to let you know that recently the Audience Awards has been mentioned or recognized in Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, and others. So it's gaining a lot of traction. And Paige, really grateful to have you here this morning to tell us about the Audience Awards. Come on over.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
So I'm Paige Williams. I'm the CEO and founder of the Audience Awards, and we are 28 months old. And that has been like 5 master degrees in 28 months, maybe a couple of doctorate degrees. So I guess today I'm speaking to you kind of from the perspective of what I've learned so far, which is a ton, but the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know what I don't know, right? So we are a digital platform, hey Tori, for filmmakers and content creators. So we all have phones in our back pocket and we go and we do cool stuff and we take videos with it. And a lot of times there are brands who are interested in that content because it directly relates to them. And so what we try to do is create what we call user-generated content contests, where you can submit films, you can submit your video for brands that we've brought on board, and then a jury in the audience, anybody around the world can vote on those videos, and then we get to award cash and prizes and film festival screenings to the winners of those videos and those films. It didn't start off with that idea. A couple of years ago, I was working with Denny Staggs, who's the Montana Film Commissioner. He had this great idea of creating a Montana-centric YouTube channel. And I was trying to figure out how to get content for the YouTube channel, but not only get video content. You know, YouTube has like 400 hours of content uploaded every hour. But how to bring engagement to that content, how to get eyeballs on Montana content. I'm a filmmaker by trade, and I've won the Audience Awards a few times at film festivals, which was always cool because the stuff I created you liked. And so I thought, well, what if we did an Audience Awards with an online voting poll for these short films and this short Montana content? And then it'd kind of be like Kickstarter, but instead of filmmakers crowdsourcing for money, they'd be crowdsourcing for their fans' support. And then they'd get a little bit of money. Their films will get seen. There's this problem with short films, like they're really cool. As a filmmaker, we all need them. It's like our calling card, it's our reel, but there's not really a place for them, and no one had really solved that problem. And I was like, and that's how we can do it. And I was like, God, that is genius. So I looked up the audienceawards.com and it was available. So I bought the URL. And then my brain would not stop. I have like 100 ideas a day, right? And most of them go away and I flush them down the toilet, or they go away when I wash my hair or whatever, right? But this one would not leave me alone. And so I remember that day that I came up with that idea. I mean, I don't think I slept for like 24 hours. And I was like walking around and I was thinking about this concept, that at theaudienceawards.com we could have contests for environmental films. So all the amazing, I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of amazing films about how to make our planet better. All those could get seen. And all of a sudden, filmmakers could have an audience because they're telling their audience to go watch my film, right? Like we go to Big Sky or we go to IWFF or we go to the Montana Film Festival that just started this year, and we see these great films and we never see them again because of the limitations of distribution. This would create a huge distribution, but it's not YouTube, right? Like YouTube's for cat videos. This is like a place for quality content and films. And so that's where the idea started. And what I ended up doing to fund the idea was I wrote a grant for this pocket of money that Denny had to do a series of videos of the making of the Audience Awards, right? Like my struggle through, okay, how do we make this concept come to life? And so we got a little bit of money and I hired a designer and I hired a developer, and I'm not a tech person, I'm a filmmaker, and so it was the beginning of my education. But we got started and we launched a beta site 4 or 5 months later in November of 13, and we had our first contest. Along the way, I picked up the International Documentary Challenge, which is now in its 13th year, and so what we tell filmmakers is gather a team, go make a film about this topic in 5 days. Those are judged, and the top 12 will go premiere at a prestigious film festival like Slam Dance in January. And at the time, it was over at Hot Docs in Toronto, which is the biggest documentary film festival in North America. And then we'll award some cash, and we'll find some distribution for those films, and we'll run an audience awards contest for those films. So with that purchase of that company, that brought us a database of about 10,000 filmmakers who were already interested in kind of this concept of creating bite-sized media and then having a purpose and building people's film careers through it. And so we just started going down that path, and we started learning from our beta site, and we relaunched the site in June of 14 with a friendly little Cat versus Grizz film contest, short film contest, and got some traction on that. We sold some ads to fund it, kept going, and along the way, I picked up 4 angel investors. One was a fool, my wife, and the next 2 were, the next one was my mentor who works for Paramount Pictures. And then the next one was a big deal. It's a fund, it's Good Works Ventures here in Missoula. I'm sure you guys all know them. So that was awesome because I felt super validated about the idea, and we had a proof of concept, and we had generated some revenue in our first year. And so now the biggest thing recently is that we ran a Montana Office of Tourism contest where 140 films, 1-minute films about Montana, were submitted. There were about 8 million social impressions of that content, 500,000 views of those videos, and Montana was everywhere. So our job now is to get that word out to other offices of tourism and brands. And so our biggest new thing is that we just released 3 of 6 scheduled contests for Hilton Worldwide for their Homewood Suites and Home 2 Suites. So you can go create a 1-minute video according to our contest brief, and we're giving away $51,000.
Very cool. It's time for Q&A.
Great. Boy, that was a quick 6 minutes. Whew.
I didn't want to tell you to stop. I'm like, keep going. This is good. All right, who's got the first question?
That keeps it going.
All right. So the question is it a Montana-centric platform, or is it already spread beyond
No, we're
that?
an international platform.
You're international, okay.
But we're based in Missoula, so that's kind of cool, right?
That's very cool.
Like I'm figuring out how to run a digital platform that would likely be in New York or LA or Silicon Valley right here from Missoula, right in this building, in this basement. And so that's been an interesting struggle for us. When we call people, I call people in New York or LA or Silicon Valley or whatever, and I say, they see 406, there's one of 2 responses, right? It's like you're the luckiest person in the whole world, or do you ride a horse to work? So there's some educating going on.
So do you actually ride a horse to work?
I do
Is
ride
that-
a horse to
okay.
work, and I wear cowboy boots.
Yeah. I think the first thing we need to do is get you a window in that basement. Do you have a window? We
Oh
need
my
s-
God, they're the best offices in in all of Missoula.
Really?
And it's a secret, so don't tell anybody.
Okay, question time.
We look over the Clark Fork River.
Awesome.
I want to know more about the Hilton contest, not because I want to be in it or because I've ever stayed, at one of these places, but because I just want to understand a little bit about how that fits into your progression, where you see yourself expanding from there, not only with trying to get, all of the Hilton deck
Right.
of cards, but just in general. Use that as an example for us to explain this new client and what you think that means for the Audience Awards, how it came to be a $51,000 prize opposed to a 50 or a 75. Is that Hilton's money? Is that other money? Is there a theme on these 1-minute videos related to these different properties? Just kind of walk us through what this means, how it works, case study.
Thank you for that question. Okay, so it's for Homewood Suites and Home 2 Suites, and they're extended stay suites. And so there are 3 different contests that we're right now running, and there will be 3 more after December. And so the 3 different ones are the book direct. Why should you book through Homewood or Home 2 or Hilton Worldwide as opposed to Travelocity or Expedia? And so the 1-minute video is supposed to be about why should you book direct. So filmmakers from around the world, but specifically United States and Canada, can create a 1-minute video for Hilton saying why you should book direct. And then as people are voting on those, they become entertained, hopefully, but also educated about the cost savings of booking direct through HiltonWorldwide.com. Another one is the Director's Challenge. This one's a little easier. It's just create a 1-minute fun video about why Homewood Suites rocks. And so that one's real easy. And the third one is they're opening their 100th hotel for their newest brand, which is Home 2. So create something in relation to this great achievement. So they're really open-ended, but what it is really, because of the public voting process, is it's everyone becoming aware of their newest brands. And so it's gonna build their audience, it builds our audience, and it gives filmmakers a way to win that $51,000. So each of those contests have their own voting times, and each one awards $17,000. So the first most voted film wins $10,000 cash. The second wins $5,000, and the third wins $1,000, and the jury award is $1,000. And then we do that 3 times. We're running these first 3 to see how that prize money works with what we're trying to get done across the country. When we ran Montana Office of Tourism, we gave away $40,000 across 5 categories. So those brands pay us a fee, and then on top of that, they pay us the cash. So we're not paying out. Now we do run some short film contests where we pay the prize, and it's like $500 for this week. By the way, go watch them. Horror films, right? Horror genre is huge. And we have right now, today, like 20 horror shorts, I think, about 20 right now, right? Where the top 3 most voted films will win $500, which is just gravy. Like when I first started out, the way I made money after I graduated with my master's in filmmaking was making how-to videos for a company. And I just kind of funded myself until I started getting real contracts. And so for me, this is a way to help emerging filmmakers, number 1, get in front of a national brand because Hilton's gonna see all of the videos. And number 2, make some major cash. And number 3, be able to fund my next film project, as well as bring my audience that I have through social to my films so that they actually see it. So I might screen at Big Sky in Missoula, but if my aunt lives in New York, she's not gonna be able to get to Big Sky. But one day she'll be able to see my work on the Audience Awards, not only see my work, but support me through voting and commenting and sharing across social networks.
So I participated as a voter on a film. My friend said, please vote for my film, vote often. And she didn't win, and I felt like the person who did was somehow gaming the system. What do you have in place to help make the votes real versus just the person that, you know, has their mom log in through different IP addresses 1,000 times a day?
So there are certain things that we track that make sure that no one's cheating, and if anyone is cheating, they're deleted from the contest. And we've honed that throughout the last year, so I'm not sure, Andy, at what point you were voting, but we've gotten really good at detecting cheating. We have SMS text verifying, and a lot of people will call us and say, I can't enter my phone number again. And it's like, well, exactly. And then we also track IPs, but even if they're bringing in other IPs, we have a very diverse way of looking at cheating and knowing where it's coming from. And we've gotten really good at that. And unfortunately, that's one of the debates we've always had in our team. And we always come out saying the integrity of our platform matters. And if we're gonna actually give away $10,000 to someone, they better deserve it. And so we've really honed in on that and figured it out. And so I'm not gonna tell you exactly how we do it because I don't want someone to see this video and say, I know how to beat it. But we have 4 different ways that we tell now.
You gotta reward the hackers to figure out.
That's a great idea.
In a best case scenario, what does your company look like in a year or 2 years?
You know, I think we're about to, I've lost a lot of sleep over the last 2 years. You know, I've probably aged 20 years and almost hypertension and, you know. But that first hump was proving our model works, that we could get content for brands, we could bring an audience, we could award filmmakers, and we learned a ton from that content, the Office of Tourism contest, and changed some things on our platform. So always we're learning, we're shifting. And I think, you know, like for a while I was trying to be the social media platform for film, and that's just not what we are. Where we're best is connecting filmmakers and brands, or concepts and filmmakers, like go make a green film, Greenpeace is gonna promote you, and you're gonna go screen at this awesome film festival. Like providing opportunities for filmmakers and not worry about the social networking stuff too much. So we continue to learn. where we are now, I think we finally have gotten our sweet spot. And the reason I'm losing sleep this week is because Hilton is our first international brand where we have called filmmakers from everywhere to create these 1-minute videos. And we never know really who's going to show up and play. We don't know how many submissions we're going to get, but we want to nail it. Because if we nail it, they could bring on all 12 of their brands. But just last week, we got probably, it looks like, 6 new contests because Hilton brought a lot of validity to us. We're about to run a contest for Kodak. We're about to do one for Colorado tourism winter vacation. So if you're in Colorado and you're skiing, you can take a video and submit it and win. We're going to give away $15,000. And we have some others coming up that we don't have, I won't say. But so every time we do one of these contests, our analytics look great. People spend a lot of time on the site. They visit a lot of pages, and that's awesome. And I'm not exactly sure what growth looks like in the next year, but I think it'll probably be 10 times growth from where we are now. And when I first started this company, one of the ideas behind it is that I would make this company and I would get out so that I could go make the films I wanted to make without having to ask people for money. And now I'm like, this is an awesome business that provides some cool Missoulians some great jobs. So why not just keep it a small business, let it turn out, you know, great product, great money. And I don't know really what an exit looks like at this point, and I'm not really interested in the exit. What I love today is sales. I love being able to support this company through a product that offers a service that someone finds valuable. And I'm really enjoying that. And I had no idea. I mean, the first thing I did when I thought of this concept was, how do I get money through investment, right? And then I learned through a long process that actually the smarter way for me, not for you, but for me and for this company, is to really just do it through offering and creating a product that people want. And so right now, that's the fun for me, and I'm really enjoying it. And the next time that I do it, if I do get to, which I always say I'm never going to do this again, but if I do get to do it again, I'm just gonna be like 100 times in advance. Like, I understand why investors sort of are reluctant to give a first-time startup money, because they want them after they've learned 1, 2, 3, 4 businesses later. And I completely get that, because holy cow, have I learned a ton. And I made a lot of mistakes, but also adjusted.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the camera manufacturers and people who make equipment for film, and if you've reached out to those guys like Sony and Canon.
Yeah, those have been hard nuts to crack, but our first one is Kodak.
Great.
So we're going to do a Super 8 filmmaking challenge, and there's just going to be different categories like home movie day, and there's going to be avant-garde and adventure and lifestyle. So a lot of times right now with wedding videography, people are going back to film, so you can submit like up to 3 minutes of your best wedding video, or you can submit your home movie from 1976, or you can submit, you know, some cool skateboard trick. And it's kind of like our world opened a little bit more when we landed our first big one, which was Hilton. And so now those phone calls aren't as hard, and people pick up the phone a little bit more easily.
And like Movi and a lot of different lighting manufacturers like Lowell. And
yeah.
I mean,
hey, if you have
that's huge.
contacts, talk to me afterwards.
There you go.
It's been also another thing I've really learned is knowing who to get to, right? Like getting to the person who can say yes. That has been the biggest, one of the biggest things I've learned, and one of the hardest challenges. Yes, Morgan.
Okay, hi Paige. I was curious, can you talk a little bit about how you landed Hilton? Or like, you know, I feel like that's such an important moment for a small Missoula startup to land such a big partner, you know, and that's probably every startup's dream, right?
Okay, so I'm going to probably give a little bit of an unconventional answer to this, but probably 50% of you will agree with me. I believe that there is a power greater than us working amongst us. And just on a personal level, I really try to tune into that. And probably where that has played the biggest role in the last year of my life is tuning in to the right people to bring onto our team. I had the gift of hiring a sales development director who had a relationship with someone who worked for Hilton Worldwide in Memphis. And so it became an interesting thing where maybe, but they had to be like, that's even tedious because you can't work in a big brand and say, because I know so-and-so, we're going to use their platform. Like there's actually statutes against that. So we still had to prove our model, and she didn't even work for Hilton once we actually pitched it. But it's all been about who we know and how we're connected. I have not gotten one contract from a cold call and from someone I don't know, or knows somebody. So I'm always the girl who's like, who do you know? You know, because that's just for me how business is working at this point. I mean, hopefully these people are going to start calling us, and like that's a different shift where instead of us calling who we know and cold calling 12 times and emailing, being pleasantly persistent, you know, they're going to start saying, hey, I saw that thing. That was pretty cool. How'd you do that? And then they're going to start calling us. Like that'll be the next shift, right, for us. But it has been a very high, steep mountain getting there.
So, excuse me. Need more yeah, I should have. So, with working with larger brands as opposed to just, you know, we want to have a cool cat video. What is sort of their proof of concept as far as the ability for that to have traction for them? Are they interested in just your audience and the volume, sort of like YouTube had volume of likes, you know, millions of likes, sort of that kind of idea, or are they looking to utilize and then integrate those films and those concepts that have been created in their, you know, social platforms? How does that break down for them as far as their value? Because I would imagine there's a lot of different ways to integrate and utilize that kind of content.
That's a great question, and it depends on the brand that we're working with. So one of our jobs that we've had to do is educate digital marketing experts on why our platform works so well. And it works on two levels. It creates content for brands very, very affordably. The average minute of just independent video is worth generally averages out about $3,000 a minute. But when you're talking about a big brand who's going to go shoot a big commercial, it's a lot more than that. And so they're getting a ton of content to fill their Instagram and their YouTube and their Audience Awards channels and their Vimeo channel for a very small fraction of the cost that it would generally charge them. And so sometimes they get that right away, and that's what they focus on. But the second thing that our platform does that's a huge value to brands and to filmmakers, which is where my passion lies, is that it brings a big audience and it brings big engagement. So Andy came and voted, but he probably watched people's films. And Andy would not have seen their films unless he was playing on the platform, right? Or you or whomever. And so you also get the brand gets this huge social media marketing push across all platforms as the contest is open for voting because of audience voting. And some of them get that. They don't care necessarily about the quality of the content, but they care about that social media marketing push. And where we kind of converge is this combination of both, where they're getting content, some of it sucks, some of it's awesome. And then they're getting a very large social media push. And one of the challenges we have with that is just how big is that audience. So if someone shares from our share hash, Facebook share hash on our site, we can track based on how many come back from that share, how many people, social impressions, although Facebook's always changing their algorithm, so it's shaky, right? But if someone even just puts in the URL into their Facebook without the share hash, we don't even count those views or count those social impressions. So that's been a pain point for us, is how big of a thing are we really creating? And we try to conserve on a low side so that we don't get nailed for it, right? And then for the brands like Hilton, if there's some really good concepts that get presented and made, they're going to go create those into real commercials with the full-fledged budget. We're not promoting that as a part of the contest right now. We're not telling people that because they haven't said it's definitely happening. And I don't like to talk in soft terms. I like concrete terms because that's just the way I am. I think I covered everything you asked. I think.
That's interesting what you were just saying about turning into commercials. As even though that's not guaranteed, when they sign up for the contest, is there some of the terms and conditions that say if you are a participant or winner, you give rights of content to Hilton, or will Hilton? Okay, so that's part of the participation.
Yeah. If you sign up
requirement?
for a branded contest, that brand shares the rights with your content. We never take the rights from the filmmakers, though. They can still go put their video wherever they want, because as a filmmaker, I'm going to protect our filmmakers. But Hilton has the right to share them as well. So they kind of have shared rights to the content.
I think that's super cool. So the question that I wanted to ask, first of all, I just commend you on bringing up some of the salesy talk, because I think people don't realize how important that is no matter what industry you're in. And a lot of people say, I'm not a salesperson. And as a filmmaker by education and trade, you probably thought that you weren't, but you clearly are, because really we're all just kind of selling all the time. And I commend you for bringing that up and the approach that you take. I just think that'd be another interesting conversation offline to have, almost like a sales panel or something like that. So thank you, Paige. Are you looking into like teen-based contests or other things? I would imagine that there are some age limitations on some of these contests. Or can anybody submit? Could a 14-year-old make a video?
I think the DMCI is 14 and up, and then most of ours are 18 and up, so it just depends. But we could work with a youth, like we did a contest for MCAT just here in Missoula, and those are all teenage kids. So they go create a little short, and then they vote for audience. I mean, they run an audience voting contest on our platform. So we have worked with teenagers, but definitely they have to be over 13 or 13 and up. But generally, I try to stay safe around 16, 18 and up, and it kind of just depends on the contest that we're running, especially when we get into a brand.
I think it's really interesting how you're changing the way that brands are able to monetize themselves without pushing advertising in your face.
Right.
Do you notice this about yourself? Because to me, as someone who's been in advertising for a long time, I feel like you're sort of hacking the advertising space in a really refreshing way.
Right.
Yes, of course, all the people viewing that video are learning about Hilton and why you should book direct, right? And they're putting money behind that, but it's not like kind of in your face, and it's not a sellout. I find that refreshing. Do you, are you?
It is a
What
new.
are your feelings on that?
Yeah, it is a new advertising model. I mean, I didn't intend it to be. I didn't know that when I created the initial concept, but we all like what we like. And if we're friends, we kind of trust each other. And if we're not friends, then we kind of like remove ourselves from Facebook or unfollow each other, right? And so I think that this is saying, hey, here's a thing I did for a brand, and I trust this brand. And so we trust one another, and it's super organic advertising that's just peer-to-peer rather than brand to consumer. And then we do team, you asked about teams, we do team challenges. So like right now is the Fusion Doc Challenge. So I can say this today because today the last group of teams across the world started competing. The theme was Move Forward. So they get to make a 4 to 7 minute documentary on that theme. They just received their theme today. Those will be judged, and they'll go and screen. The top 12 will screen at Slamdance. Top 20 are licensed to Fusion Television, which is an ABC Univision affiliate for millennials. And so they have found our platform as a great way to create quality short film content that's really peer-to-peer. I mean, it's from the millennials' perspective because they're sitting there making a film about moving forward, and then people even on their couches, but really they're also strongly digital because of the millennials, are sitting there watching the content. And so it's proving to work not just for brands, not just for tourism departments, but even television networks. And so it's breaking into this new mold of digital distribution, but also how we create the content for the digital. And it's super cool. And this is the second year we've done it for them, and now we're going to do 3 more. We're going to do an Earth Day one for Univision and 2 other ones in 16. So that's really picking up steam too. And what's cool is that you get to create this content on a team. And so like if you're in a film school, you can grab 3 of your favorite buddies and go make a short film and be at Slamdance in Park City in 2016. And that's awesome for a filmmaker that's, 18, 19, 20 years old.
We've got to wrap up, so Becky, this is the last question.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, you've mentioned a couple times that a minute was sort of what the film length was geared to, and I was wondering if there's a place for in the future where Snapchatters would come in, or is a minute sort of held up the integral oriented, or can it be reduced to
You know,
little snippets of film?
Yeah, like our horror film festival, it's 45 minutes and under.
you
But
going
for the
into under a
brands,
minute?
we're doing a minute. We've done one that's 3 minutes and under. But what we see is a minute and under, more films get watched, more videos get watched, and so it's a sweet spot. But they could be 10 seconds, they could be 15 seconds, absolutely. Like I was trying to get the CEO of Vine to do a contest about a year ago. I might reapproach him.
Paige, what can 1 million cups do for you?
You can go on to our site, theaudienceawards.com, or onto our Facebook page and share the contest with your friends and say, hey, filmmaker, because we all have filmmaker friends, right? Like, and some of us are amateurs and we all have a phone in our pocket, and just say, hey, check out this great startup in Missoula. Go support them, create a 1-minute video and have a shot at, I think the most you can win is $32,000. One person could enter every single contest, win first place prize, and the 3 jury prizes, and that'd be $33,000. So it's a great opportunity. Also, why don't you take a shot at it? Why not?
Thank you. That's great. So when you did the audience awards for MCAT, was that the Do It in 72?
Yeah, it was.
My son won last year.
He did?
He won the $300. He thought he'd win the lottery.
Awesome.
Yes.
We love giving money away. It's awesome.
That's great.
Do I get a cup?
Thank you very much. You get your 1 million cup.
Thank you
cup.
very much.
Thank you. Now I have more questions too, but
Okay.
we're out of time. Thank you very much. Some of you did it from last week to this week, and I'll encourage you this week to next week. Bring a friend, and we'll see you next week.